Welcome to Twisted Truths, where betrayal meets brutal payback, and where the most unexpected twists expose what people are really capable of. This story isn't just shocking, it's personal. My name is William Hartley. I'm 49 years old, and for 12 years, I poured my soul into a company that ultimately saw me as nothing more than a line item on a spreadsheet. 12 years of service at Medcore Integrated Systems. Procurement Manager. Not glamorous, sure, but vital, especially in the medical world. While people upstairs obsessed over profit margins, I focused on what really mattered, getting the right supplies to hospitals, on time, no matter what. And I did it well. During the worst months of the pandemic, when global logistics collapsed and hospitals were pleading for masks, ventilators, gloves, I was the one who made it all happen. I didn't just crunch numbers. I built relationships. I drove cross-state when trucks broke down. I found backup sources when warehouses flooded. I even personally delivered critical shipments more than once. But loyalty doesn't scale, I guess. The betrayal came on a Tuesday. The conference room was cold, sterile. I remember the fluorescent light flickering above me like some cruel strobe as Michelle Langston, our newly installed operations VP, barely 37, sharp heels, sharper smile, slid a manila envelope across the table. "William, we're restructuring," she said. Her voice was so calm, so smug. "We're grateful for your contributions, but your role is being eliminated." Eliminated. Like it was a tumor. The HR rep beside her, some fresh-faced woman named Amy, fumbled through legalese about severance and COBRA benefits. Michelle? She just looked amused. Like she couldn't wait to watch me shrink. But I didn't flinch. I nodded. Smiled. "Thank you for the opportunity," I said. 12 years was a good run. That smile on Michelle's face widened. She thought I was crushed. That I would slink away quietly. What she didn't know was that I had seen this coming. And I had prepared. 3 years ago, during the chaos of COVID, while Medcore's execs were panicking over shipping delays and legal cover, I quietly registered an LLC, Hartley Logistics Consulting. Completely legal. Nothing shady. Just insurance. You see, the hospitals didn't work with Medcore. Not really. They worked with me. It was me who stayed up until 3 a.m. when a trauma unit in Minnesota ran out of blood bags. Me who kept in touch with every vendor, every trucker, every local warehouse. I even helped one distributor in Ohio relocate during a blizzard. I remembered their kids' birthdays. I knew their pain points. They trusted me. Michelle thought she was cutting costs. She was cutting her company's own throat. I walked out of that room with my head held high, the severance check folded neatly in my back pocket. 12 years. Gone in 60 minutes. I packed my things. Left behind the plaques, the awards. Took only the picture of my wife Ellen, gone these 5 years now. And my Rolodex. They could keep the desk. They didn't know what those phone numbers meant. I won't pretend I walked out of that building like a hero in some revenge movie. No. I drove home, hands shaking on the steering wheel, wondering what the hell I was supposed to do now. I pulled into the driveway of the house Ellen and I bought 15 years ago. The one with the tiny front porch she loved and the rose bush I could never seem to keep alive. It was quiet inside. Too quiet. No radio. No hum from the TV. Just the sound of my footsteps and the heaviness of a home that hadn't felt full in years. I sat in the kitchen, stared at the countertop where Ellen used to cut oranges every morning before work. I could still hear her voice sometimes, soft, teasing, "You're too kind, Will. One day someone's going to use that against you." She was right. She always was. I poured a glass of whiskey. Just one. Stared at the wall. 12 years gone. No ceremony. No handshake. Not even a thank you party. Just Michelle Langston with her damn envelope. I kept replaying it in my head. The way she didn't even make eye contact as she said the words. The way Amy kept glancing at the door like she couldn't wait for me to leave. Like I was an inconvenience. A relic. I gave up so much for that company. Holidays. Birthdays. Sleep. When Ellen got sick, I still worked late shifts. She told me not to, but I had to keep the insurance going. That's how I justified it. And now. I wasn't just unemployed. I was erased. By Thursday, I was still in the same sweatshirt. I hadn't showered. Hadn't answered the calls from vendors who'd heard rumors. I didn't know what to say. How do you explain that the company you helped keep alive just threw you out like yesterday's shipment manifest? The lowest point came that night. I was sitting on the floor in the hallway, holding Ellen's picture. I whispered, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. The silence that followed felt like judgment. But then. My phone buzzed. A text from Carla Hughes, supply director over at New Horizons Surgical in Des Moines. William, just heard you left Medcore. Please say it's not true. We need to talk. That message cracked something open in me. Not hope. Not yet. But something that wasn't despair. Because Carla wasn't just a client. She was a friend. And her hospital handled 40% of our Northeast regional orders. She knew what I did better than anyone. I texted her back. It's true. Not my decision. Let me know when you're free. She responded immediately. Tomorrow. Call me at 10. I've got a proposition for you. That night, I finally showered. I cleaned up the living room. I sat at the desk Ellen used to use when she did volunteer grant writing, and I opened my laptop. I stared at the empty spreadsheet for a long time. Then I typed 3 words at the top. They had no clue. At exactly 10 a.m. the next morning, I called Carla. William, she said, voice sharp with disbelief. What the hell happened over there? I paused. Corporate restructuring, I said dryly. New VP thought I was obsolete. Michelle Langston, she hissed. She's been circling us too. Sent us some vendor optimization crap last month. No relationship building, no conversations, just spreadsheets and sales talk. I smiled faintly. Sounds about right. Well, she's an idiot, Carla snapped. You built Medcore's entire supply web in this region. You think I trusted the company? I trusted you. Always have. That meant more to me than she knew. She cleared her throat. Listen, I've been meaning to ask you something for a while now. We've been thinking of ditching the big distributors altogether. Working directly with someone who gets it, someone who actually gives a damn when our surgeons call at midnight. If you ever thought about going independent. I already have, I said. A beat of silence. What? 3 years ago, during the supply chain collapse, I registered Hartley Logistics Consulting. Never used it officially, but it's clean, legal, and structured to serve hospitals directly. You serious? Very. Carla exhaled. I can't speak for the entire board, but if you can give us what Medcore used to, better, even, we'll walk. I almost laughed. You'd really end your vendor agreement with Medcore? Just like that? She didn't hesitate. William, we work with people. Not logos. We agreed to talk terms the following week. I hung up, pulse racing. I hadn't felt that kind of adrenaline since I'd landed the emergency shipment of ventilators in 2020. That one call lit a fuse. I opened my Rolodex, yes, a literal one, and began dialing. Tony Valdez from Harrison Medical. Shauna Ling from Core Surgical. Manny DeRosa, who ran distribution in 5 states out of a warehouse in Kansas City. Every call sounded the same. You're gone from Medcore. What the hell are they thinking? You're starting your own firm. Sign us up. By nightfall, I had 5 verbal commitments and 3 offers for exclusive partnerships, pending contracts. Not out of pity. Not even out of loyalty. Out of strategy. They knew what I brought to the table. Then I opened a folder I hadn't touched in months. It was labeled COVID Backup Structure. Inside were the updated vendor contracts I'd helped rework during the pandemic. Why? Because Medcore's leadership panicked. They authorized me to do what you must as long as the supplies kept moving. So I did. Every critical contract I'd restructured in 2021 had a 30-day termination clause. No penalties. No lock-ins. Because I knew. I knew people like Michelle Langston would come one day, people who believed numbers mattered more than trust. And I made sure that if I ever needed to walk away, those vendors could come with me. Legally. Cleanly. Michelle hadn't just fired me. She had unleashed a storm she didn't even realize was gathering. By Monday morning, I had an outline. Not a business plan. A surgical strike. Revenge isn't about screaming into the void. It's about patience. Strategy. Silence. It wasn't just about getting even with Michelle Langston. No. That would be too small. Too petty. I wanted something better, for her to feel irrelevant. For her to realize too late what she had thrown away. And for Medcore to understand what they'd lost, when it was already far too late to fix it. I spent the next 48 hours quietly activating the framework I'd built in secret. First, incorporate. I filed official documentation for Hartley Medical Logistics, registered it as an S-Corp, and secured professional insurance coverage. Second, branding. Clean logo. Secure domain. Set up a clean, professional website that clearly explained what made me different, relationship-driven medical logistics. When lives are on the line, we don't rely on algorithms, we rely on people. Third, outreach. I made calls. Sent contracts. I asked only one thing of my vendors: terminate your Medcore contracts by next Friday. All legal. All within their rights. No penalties. Some hesitated. I understood. Change is scary. So I offered them this: direct lines to the hospitals I used to service. Hospitals that were already preparing to walk if I wasn't involved. Trust goes both ways. By Thursday, 7 vendors had submitted their notices to Medcore. And I hadn't even sent a single public message. This was all behind the scenes. Quiet. Tactical. Meanwhile, I set up meetings with my old contacts at the major hospitals. I showed them my new structure. My delivery model. My retention system for critical equipment. They were stunned. One procurement director at St. Luke's Hospital leaned back after seeing my pitch and said, "This is what we needed during the pandemic." I didn't know you were doing all this under the radar. I was keeping people alive, I replied. Not chasing titles. He signed on the spot. Then came the hardest part, calling the woman who'd taken my desk and tried to erase 12 years of blood, sweat, and soul. Michelle Langston. I still had her number. Of course I did. I didn't call. I emailed. Subject, vendor updates. Hi Michelle. Just a courtesy note that you'll be seeing some termination notices roll in from vendors over the next week. No hard feelings. Just business. Best of luck restructuring your department. William Hartley. Founder, Hartley Medical Logistics. I imagined her face tightening. That smug little smirk cracking, just slightly. She had no idea how many of her orders were about to fail. How many hospitals would suddenly be scrambling. How many late-night phone calls she'd be getting from supply chain managers asking, what happened to William? But I did. I didn't have to scream. Or rant. Or gloat. Because by Friday morning, my silence would be deafening. Friday morning started with black coffee and silence. At exactly 8:03 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was a screenshot from Carla at New Horizons Surgical. The subject line of an internal email from Medcore's central procurement read: Urgent, several vendor terminations received. Identify backup sources immediately. I smiled. The first domino had fallen. By noon, 4 hospitals that used to depend on Medcore had called me directly, asking for transitional help. They didn't want to hear from Medcore's new digital vendor portal. They wanted me. Not because I had the lowest price. Because I had the shortest distance between, we have a problem, and, here's the solution. That weekend, I sat in my home office finalizing 10 contracts. All of them with major suppliers. All of them rerouting their distribution pipelines through my new firm, Hartley Medical Logistics. On Monday morning, I sent the final batch of faxes and certified letters to Medcore's corporate office. They included formal 30-day termination notices from Harrison Medical Supply, Core Surgical Distribution, Stalworth Diagnostics, Apex Trauma Solutions, Everclear PPE. Each one listed me as the new primary distributor. By Wednesday, Michelle Langston's inbox was probably flooded. She didn't call me. She called the vendors. They didn't answer. She called the hospitals. They told her, we're going with someone who understands our needs. The more she pushed, the more doors closed in her face. She still didn't understand what was happening. Because people like Michelle don't understand trust. They understand metrics, and KPIs, and efficiency reports. But they don't understand that when you treat relationships like expenses, you don't just lose contracts. You lose your leverage. By the end of the second week, I had converted every hospital account I'd personally managed over my 12 years. All of them now worked directly with me. And Medcore? They were bleeding. Quietly. Internally. And they still couldn't figure out where the leak was coming from. Then I got the email that told me it had all worked. From Medcore's regional VP of operations, forwarded by a hospital administrator I'd once helped secure a rare cancer drug for. It read: We are evaluating how this loss occurred and reviewing termination of key management personnel who oversaw procurement realignment decisions. Michelle Langston's name wasn't mentioned. But I knew exactly who they meant. And it was far from over. Because I wasn't just dismantling their vendor list. I was about to take everything they thought couldn't be touched. 2 weeks after I left Medcore, I got a call from someone I hadn't expected. Martin Keene. Medcore's former CEO. Retired the year before Michelle Langston joined. William, he said. You've stirred up quite a storm. Martin, I replied, carefully neutral. Didn't expect to hear from you. I'm consulting now, he said. Part-time, quietly. I've been watching what's happening. There was a pause. Michelle's about to be let go, he said bluntly. They don't know how to stop the bleeding. You took half the supply chain with you. She fired me, I said. I know. And I'm guessing she didn't realize that during COVID, you personally renegotiated nearly every vendor contract the company relied on. No, I said. She thought I was just the guy who sent POS and kept donuts in the break room. Martin laughed, low and bitter. She's been shopping her resume around all week. The board's furious. But that's not why I'm calling. I tensed. Then why? Because Medcore's planning to offer you a buyout. Not a job. A buyout. I sat back in my chair. They're putting together a proposal to acquire Hartley Medical Logistics. Full absorption, retain you as a senior advisor, rebuild vendor relationships through your brand. Why would I agree to that? I asked coolly. Because they'll offer you more money than you've ever made. And because some part of you might still want to fix what they broke. I didn't reply. Martin continued, but let me give you the real reason: they need you. You built their reputation. You kept their hospitals alive. And now they're watching those same hospitals transfer their trust to you, faster than anyone thought possible. It hit me then. This wasn't just personal anymore. This was power. Not revenge for its own sake, but revenge with leverage. With legacy. I thanked Martin and hung up. Later that afternoon, Michelle Langston finally reached out. Her email subject line: let's talk. The body of the message was short. William. I think we both know things have gotten out of hand. I'd like to meet and discuss potential cooperation between Hartley Medical Logistics and Medcore. There may still be value in partnership. Respectfully. Michelle Langston. VP of Operations. Medcore Integrated Systems. Respectfully. From the woman who once smirked as she handed me a severance folder. The reversal was complete. The power dynamic had flipped. Not in secret. Not in whispers. Publicly. She was no longer in control. I was. And now I had to decide just how far I wanted to take this. I met Michelle Langston at the very same conference room where she fired me. Same view. Same sterile air. But the energy? Completely different. She sat across from me, wearing a navy blazer and forced confidence. But her eyes flicked nervously toward the folder in my hand. The same kind of manila folder she once slid across the table like a death sentence. Only this time, I was the one holding it. William, she said, trying to smile. Thank you for coming. I gave a nod. Always good to see how things come full circle. She cleared her throat. We've had complications since your departure. But I think we both want what's best for the hospital systems we've served. Medcore is prepared to explore a full acquisition of Hartley Medical Logistics, under very favorable terms. She slid a printed offer across the table. 7 figures. Retention bonuses. Company car. The works. Your brand carries weight, she added. We can rebuild trust. Together. I didn't touch the paper. Instead, I opened my own folder. Inside was a signed joint letter from 11 hospitals. A cooperative agreement. Hartley Medical Logistics would be their exclusive procurement liaison, not as a distributor, but as the primary logistics broker and compliance officer. I wasn't just managing orders. I was managing policy. You're about 6 weeks too late, Michelle, I said calmly. She blinked. Excuse me. I don't need a buyout. What I need is for Medcore to honor the new ecosystem. Your contracts are gone. Your access points are gone. But if you're willing to route through my company, I'll consider a 30% margin partnership, for Tier 2 facilities only. She stared at me. That's extortion. No, I said with a smile. That's the market. The silence was thick. I didn't come here to gloat, I added. I came here to offer you a lifeline. Not because you deserve it. But because hospitals deserve to keep functioning. And frankly, they no longer trust you. Her face reddened. But she didn't argue. Because she couldn't. The next week, Medcore quietly signed a partner agreement with Hartley Medical Logistics, under my terms. Michelle resigned 1 month later. Her reputation shot. Her career reduced to whispers of the VP who fired the backbone of the company. Me. I didn't become a CEO because I craved power. I became one because I finally understood what Ellen had told me all those years ago. One day, someone's going to use your kindness against you. She was right. But she forgot to mention something even more powerful. That calm doesn't mean weak. And quiet doesn't mean blind. I built something out of nothing, while they were too busy calculating my replacement cost. And now, I choose who gets in, and who gets left outside. In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. As one wise voice once said, sometimes your greatest enemy was once your closest ally. If this story struck a chord with you, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and spread the word, because justice deserves to be heard.